Welcome to Protecting Morehouse from COVID-19. My name is Kyree Davis-Towns. I'll be your host and also the group leader of the group in charge of this presentation. That's the wrong button, boy. Don't mind that. Now, over the last year, you might have noticed that there's a little virus out there that's affected us all. Shut down countries, borders, businesses across our nation were halted and forced to close, causing an uproar and economic crisis. One stimulus check given out every 8 months. It even affected colleges, where they had to make the hard choice of sending students home in the middle of the spring semester. In the case of Morehouse, this was in the middle of spring break. Students had under a week to get back from wherever they were, pack all of their things, and go back home, wherever that might be. This took a serious emotional and physical toll on our students because, like you might hear from the nickname of our school, it's our house. And to just be kicked out of it halfway through was a bit disheartening. And to not know what would come next was also a bit strange. But what would come next was a virtual setting, which Morehouse semi-eased into, but really was a rough run. We had no clue how long this pandemic or these restrictions would last, and it rolled over into our graduation, which became virtual, and even our NSO, which became virtual. Two pivotal moments in our school's culture. The fall semester, surrounded by the freshmen coming in and getting them ingratiated into the matriculation. In the spring, our seniors leaving and watching them finally blossom into Morehouse men, cut into virtual presentations. Now, a question has to be asked. After the fall semester was completely virtual and the new year is upon us, but the COVID restrictions are still here, is this our new normal? And how can we adjust to these restrictions and still keep Mother Morehouse alive as the center of Black male excellence? This was the task that me and my group were set to answer. And I think we did a good job of coming with an alternative to keeping everything alive. We took a look at the NBA bubble. During the height of the pandemic, the NBA took a secluded group of teams, staffs, and trainers to the Walt Disney Resort in Orlando. And at this resort, they used wristbands to keep track of where players were and the time frames that they left and stayed within secured places. Now you might be asking, could this method work at Morehouse College? Maybe not on the same financial level, but on an ideal level, all they were really doing were keeping what we could do is like QR codes outside of the CAF, outside of Kilgore, outside of living spaces, at every entry and exit point of our institution, right? And as the administration enforces this, it'd be understood by students that to get into spaces, to get out of spaces, you must use these QR codes. The same way that we would use them at Crown Forum, right? There'd be a time stamp, there'd be a name stamp, a Morehouse ID stamp to let who's ever in charge of keeping this data, letting them know that when a certain person gets sick or infected or feels a certain way, we can track back their steps of where they've been, who was also in those spaces to contain the effects of a potential breakout, just like the NBA did. And for 95 days straight, they went with a phenomenal 0 cases. That's a team full of 15 players, an additional staff of 11 coaches, 7+ trainers for 22 teams. A number that's not really reaching our campus level, but I believe that we could make the same impact of 0 cases or, little to none cases. Now, who's in charge of doing all these things? I spoke about administration, but it's a combination of administration, campus police, and the wellness center, right? Administration laying down the law and a guideline of what is to be followed and putting these QR codes in places that are our safe spaces and keeping the data up to date. Campus police staying at the entry and exit points of spaces so that people can't just bogart in and respect it and enforce the rules of signing in and signing out. And also the wellness center, keeping checks in and keeping students who live on campus well, not vaccinated, but keeping them checks. Like the CDC recommends active checks between 14 to 7 to 3 day variations. And with that combination, the campus could stay very much secure. But I think the most key difference makers and the most pivotal leaders are our student leaders, our RAs, our NSO leaders, our SGA members, and anybody else who runs a student-led or a student-funded operation on campus organization. These people are the people who are going to be in those CAFs, who are going to be in those living spaces, who are going to be in those classrooms, who are going to be on Brown Street, who are in group meets, who are on social media. And it's their job to speak a language of safety and honesty. Honest about how you feel, if you're feeling sick, if you see something that could endanger all of us, because the biggest thing about this plan is overall safety. We all knew what it felt like to be kicked off campus out of nowhere in the middle of that spring semester in 2020, right? And with a culture of honesty and safety, we could avoid that in the future. If these restrictions are to last, the NBA has shown a guideline that within a specific secured space, things can still survive, right? All of those teams and players and staff members and trainers came together to get one goal done, and that was just to play basketball. And at Morehouse College, before this pandemic, before anything, we've come together to make bigger things happen than just basketball. So I don't see why that couldn't happen here. That's all we had to really present. Thank you for listening. Hopefully, these ideas can be implemented, and in our proposal, you can see a bit more detailed information about what these contact bans could really do and the real statistics behind them. But until then,